Igor, long time no see from the
Yeah.
last Kamailio World, or?
Yeah. Hello.
Doing fine?
Yeah, everything is fine. So thank you for having me. And
You're welcome. You've been around the project for a long time. You've been a couple of Kamailio World in Berlin, so it's time to return to the community also what you like to do with Kamailio, with the local development. I have to uh, be saying the truth here. I was really interested on this one because generating a more complex development environment, it's useful, and never took the time to spend enough with Docker and all these tools around it or capabilities for building such environment.
okay,
So sorry, just to present, that's going to be more like a live demo. Maybe you have also some slides, but
yes, the question about slides. So it was originally yesterday. I was thinking that it's going to be fully live, but my friend said to me that he's tired to look just on the console and asked me to make some slides. So
that's perfect. Okay. Then your time now. Thanks for joining. I see your video. It's a little bit framed, maybe because of the connection. If you don't need to show your screen, you can turn it off the video, and we can see only the slides.
Okay, so I'll then turn off my video. But so anyway, first let me introduce myself. My name is Igor, and for the last 5 years, I'm working as a freelancer with different VoIP related project. So a small forward about what freelancing and what it's about and what kind of things it's around. So freelance life is a variety of usually small tasks with quite different technology stacks used. So why small tasks? Because there is no one will give a real big project to a single person. So it's not like a build a provider, I don't know, MVNO infrastructure from scratch or something like this. So usually it takes tasks to integrate all together already existing things, to add some small extra functionality to services that are already running, and so on. So that means that I have to work with a really big scope of existing technologies and programming languages as well. So on some project it could be Python, on some project it could be Lua, on some other project it could be JavaScript, whatsoever. So by the way, about the picture, if you think this is a picture of freelancer life, no, it's not. But it's just the picture to you to see, so not that boring. Anyway, that way of work and variety of tasks leads to a problem that I need to have for every project. I need to have a sort of development environment, so I can run a few and yeah, for sure, I can run a few projects at the same time. So sometimes clients give some existing environments, dev environments, sometimes they're not. So it depends, actually. So for example, one project could be Kamailio integrating with some HTTP API and routing based on this API. Second could be also Kamailio with some tricky dispatcher algorithm. Other, I don't know, it could be some custom development for the Fusion PBX, the project to mention, actually. So for each of these tasks, best to have development environments to test, but not only for this, but it's actually the main. One of the possible solutions, it's actually virtual machines. So great answer, but sometimes, you know, you need to have some kind of 3-4 different services that is running around. For example, database, web server, Kamailio, FreeSwitch, Asterisk, Node.js API, and all of this in one project. And at the end, with all of these virtual machine, it could actually be a mess. So yes, you can run it all the things on the single machine, means your host machine, but you have to deal with ports, interfaces, not to interfere, and actually sometimes you need to test SIP routing in more complex scenarios, and only routing through localhost cannot show you all some small details. So my answer to this problem, actually, the development environment based on Docker. Okay. So, okay, I know Docker again in 2020. I'm not about to introduce this thing to you. So it's, I think the most of the audience, okay, I can't see the audience, but I'm pretty believe that most of them are using, tried it at least, and some of them actually using it in production. So I am more to speak again of technology that we all know and maybe find some more of this. So like learning something through repeating existing things. And a small remark on Docker on production. I can be very, very long here because I made a study about this. So long story short, Docker and real time is not a good combination because of the how CFS is working. Means it's a kernel-based scheduler. So because by default it slices the kernel time to the 100 milliseconds, and let's say this: if you want to use the Docker in production, you have to fine-tune your kernel. I have some links later in presentation that the only actually the reason to have my presentation downloaded is those links. So if you want to use Docker in production, is actually to fine-tune again your kernel. And if you have some kind of best practices, I'm speaking to the audience, if you can share some information about this, I'm really glad to hear about this. So but it's for production. For testing, it's full okay, because okay, jitter on local machine, okay, I can live with it, and something like this. Next thing is about actually what I'm using for Docker to combine all of these things together. It's Docker Compose. Docker Compose is an orchestration system that allows you to describe a way of starting Docker containers, volumes, networks. So it's all in YAML format that actually can save your psychic from long Docker CLI with a myriad of parameters. So I can say the YAML is good for mental health as well, but better than this endless Docker command lines. So that's actually all of the slides, and we're gonna switch to the demo and actually the example of Docker Compose file that I'm actually using as how it's to say core when I'm starting some kind of new Docker Kamailio project. So here I'm actually having the described its Kamailio and asterisk. So Kamailio is listening on the port 5060, TCP and UDP, and the thing about database. I was thinking about, actually I was experimenting with the various types of the databases, and the database, for example, for testing, I found the more convenient is actually dbtext. Why dbtext? Because it's based on the plain files. So you can have a configuration stored in database and pushed into the Git. So in this way, you can have store your configuration in the same Git repository, just in different branches. So you don't have to put the binary MySQL data there or something like this, because okay, sometimes it's not the best idea. So, and actually with this thing with exploring dbtext, I think the Daniel noticed my today's complaining and bugging into the GitHub. So that's actually the base image that I'm using. It's just building Docker. And I'm actually, what I'm doing, I'm exporting the ATC Kamailios, so to have it here on my local file system, and database, so it's actually just a database with usual the dbtext. So, actually, how to start it? It's quite simple. I'm using one alias just to simplify. It's docc, which is actually equal to the Docker compose. So I will use the docc command. So to start the containers, it's simple as this. So it will start the container, and I can see all the containers, okay, are started, because the config file here is actually the basic config file that is actually just added the DB, and DB is repointed from the default MySQL to DB text. So, okay, we started it, and okay, what we have to use about the local development. So the idea, my idea is to quickly check the configuration that I'm writing and the Kamailio. So I'm connecting to the Kamailio container that is running, and here I have the Kamailio process that I can check the config file that is running here. So for example, if I'll make some, I don't know, errors or for example, just work or not, I'm not sure. So yes, I immediately can see some kind of errors here. So that's the idea of to start some initial development work on the local machine. And then, okay, I'm pretty aware that there is a different network environments, different real life situation, but at least you can fine tune your config. Having its advantage of having a Kamailio process is running on your local machine. So you don't need to debug and develop on some remote server. And let me actually show you some more advanced stuff, because, for example, here it's quite simple. It's just Kamailios and asterisk is running, and they are actually even not connected between each other. Here means Kamailio is don't know about asterisk, asterisk don't know about Kamailio, but they are actually in the same network. But let me actually just show you the different branch, more advanced one. And just to show you some of the options that are being used here. First is actually networks. So each Docker container can have as many interfaces, like actually the virtual machine or something like this, as many as you want. So here I describe the network called main, actually. And inside, when there's just a second, let me stop this container, set of containers, and switch to the different branch, and start. Yes, they're running. And just for example, to connect, just to show you that here, this container, the Kamailio container, have two interfaces. One loop back the default one container, and the second container is actually that the Docker is creating the network for you. It's internal network. It's Docker is making these networks based on the on the IP tables rules. So I'm not diving into it. It's just let's say hidden from me, and I'm okay how it's being worked. So the one of the interesting things about here that you can automatically add aliases to the containers that are running. For example, this asterisk machine has an alias called asterisk _1. So if I'll ping from Kamailio machine *1, it will be automatically resolved to their IP address. So I don't need actually to be aware on which IP it's running. So it's done automatically for me. Also, what is interesting, you can have the things like extra hosts. It's like putting in etc hosts file records that will point the domain names and the IP addresses. What is being interesting for example, here, you can add the domain names. You can play around with domain names inside Kamailio and just, for example, putting them on the local host or some other host that you're actually aware of. So it's just a way of putting the etc hosts inside the container. So for example, here in Kamailio CVG, in this example, I do have, for example, this thing. So my local interface, the local host interface, is advertising as ziplocalhost.com, which is actually just described here. So for example, if I'll ping the ziplocalhost.com from inside the container, it will point me to the localhost interface. So that's and actually what this example is about, it's just a simple load balancer for Kamailio, just to show you that this is a possible way to have even the quite complex, let's say, complex basic scenario inside Docker containers and actually have some tests within it. So here I have the DB text, as I've mentioned, and the dispatcher that I have two machines of asterisk with the same set ID, with the same priority, with the same actually most everything, but inside Kamailio I can run comctl dispatcher dump. So you can see the both are actually here. And what is also interesting, it's interesting that you can use also sngrep inside the container, and it would be restricted to the network inside specifically this container. So for example, these are pingers from dispatcher module that is actually just pinging the asterisk 1 and 2, and you can see only them inside this container. So if you go, for example, to the asterisk container, you will see the receiving. But if you run sngrep on the host machine, I think I can try to do this. Sngrep -c, sngrep. I'm pretty sure you will see some kind of duplications here, but again, I'm not sure about this. Yeah. So yeah, you will see the duplication because it will leave one interface, then it will arrive to the second interface, and it's again, you will see the duplications on the host machine. But when you're running sngrep inside just one container, you will have like a local normal environment. That's just, I don't know, to show you some of the stuff. For example, I'm using Zoipa. I've got, I think, on some previous Kamailio World sessions. Yes, it's actually just have a registration. And actually here, what also I wanted to show you, it's the thing that I'm actually registering on the domain, but using outbound proxy as my local host. So the registration is actually quite straightforward here. So register comes from my interface, and the Kamailio is just forward this to the one of the asterisk machines. And on the asterisk machine, I have these client is actually described in the zipconf, I think. Yeah. So yeah, this is the test. So test. So it's just actually the example of what kind of environments you can have within the Docker and the Docker Compose on the Kamailio. So I can have, let's say, one more example. So just okay. So just to stop all the containers and before switching branch. So I have, okay, just a second. Yeah, and by the way, all these registrations are replicated in the location DB. So it's actually also a good point that you can have all the information about, let's say, what is going on in the database using DB text. You can have it just in the plain text. So this is a register from the whatsoever, and here we have some kind of information about transport and user log. So it's just to mention. So I'm not saving it and switching it to the different. So here it's a bit different idea. It's Kamailio that added CP, the famous testing tool here. So and particular, this example is just to show you that you can actually also test your current Kamailio config with CP inside the same, let's say, environment, inside the same network. So I can start it. And just verify that this is running. Yes, all of them is running, and I'm just connecting to the container. And somewhere I do have some actually string just to scenario. Actually, this is scenario quite interesting because it's using, let me actually show you the actual zip packet, because it's also quite interesting. It's was done for testing one of interesting stuff. So it was done to test some SMS that it will come with an within invite packet with content type. And the idea of the Kamailio, actually just in this example, was that it should reply back to the ACK with by. So just immediately. So it was quite strange requirement from the SMS operator, and it was just like a proof of concept that the Kamailio can do this actually here. So it's done on even stateless routing module. So what it's actually all about. So okay, it was quite briefly, quite fast, and I'm pretty sure that let's say you can't get the in this example with much details, but the idea was just to show that many variety of the things are possible. So you don't, for example, need to have a spare virtual machine server that is running, for example, Kamailio somewhere on the DigitalOcean. Okay, it's good to have one, but imagine that you're, I don't know, like a freelancer, and you're traveling and you're lying on the beach with a laptop, and you have a crappy internet, so you can have at least some testing environment directly on your machine. And what is really good about this, that you can have it just when you need it. So when you don't need it, you can just turn it off, and your system would be clean, good, and all okay. And you can have these database information, all your configs. It could be pushed to Git, and you can have there some let's say maybe client non-sensitive data or something like this, because for example here for these client actually modules, I'm using the Kamailio local file that is actually usually not included into the Git repository. So I'm not putting some kind of sensitive data like IP addresses or some other information inside Git, but the core config is actually open. You can use it, and I'm using this as let's say a skeleton for next projects. So that's the idea of how I'm using that, what I've come to when I'm using the Kamailio. So it's actually not development like a development Kamailio, it's developing for Kamailio, using all of these environments, and this is mainly it. For actually links, you can have all of these examples that I've showed you are actually open. You can use them, and the rest of the links are actually to Docker explaining how to use Docker in production with real-time things, because again, by default, Docker is using CFS, which uses time slices like 100 milliseconds per task. So if you have a switching between process like 100 milliseconds, you highly possible will get into the jitter problem, because you have the packetization time like 20 milliseconds for the RTP. So putting RTP in Docker, I'm not recommending it, but if you want to do it, you have to be aware of where it is, what are you doing, and actually best consult with someone who is, let's say, specialist in Linux kernel, which I'm apparently not. So this is, yeah, okay, where is my, yeah, I think.
Okay.
So this is mainly it, and again, it's not about just to learn something new and fascinating. It's about repeating what is actually the combining of the technologies that already known, and just to show you that the various ways are possible.
Okay, thank you, You're very interesting. I'll have to check the Git repository. It was
So I'll send you a presentation that you can attach it to the recording.
Yeah, and yeah, I already have the presentation from Yufei and Alexander, and I uploaded also my presentation. I'll do yours as well in kamailio.org/events. I see now questions for you on the Matrix channel. I'm gonna read it for you, so it's recorded as well. How you resolve problem in this configuration, Kamailio being always behind the net.
Actually, it's advertised. So I'm not solving, I'm using the advertise. So when I'm putting it to the real world environments, I'm fine tuning network a bit. So I'm trying to get the all core logic about routing, about all of the stuff inside the Docker, and then I'm fine-tuning it's on the real world object, means on the production or testing system with a real network environment.
And another one, how you emulate when some of the addresses used by Kamailio are white IP. I'm not sure what this means. Maybe listening on 0.0.0.0. I'm not sure what's the meaning. Typically, this is for firewall, like whitelisting, but I'm not sure.
No, 0.0.0 just been to alt interfaces usually. So it's actually the same. So how I'm dealing with the network, again, idea of this setup is to get the some basic routing and leaving some of the network behind. And when it comes actually to network, I am fine-tuning again. It's on the production and on the real network environment.
A clarification, it is about IP and the external network. So probably this we can discuss it.
Yeah, so the network, again, you have in, let me actually share my my screen again. The network, again, the Docker Compose and the Docker, actually, the itself, providing you with a different variety of networks. So you can have as many networks as many as you want. When you're specifying, for example, these port forwards, by default, Docker points it to the allow interface of the container. So 127.001. And these networks here are actually added dynamically. So I'm using these interfaces actually to emulate, for example, external and internal network. But for external, yes, these things are actually for advertising. So adding a domain that is pointing to the local host, and then in Kamailio config to have something like, I already, I think, showed it, something like this. So when the config is being switched to the real network, I'm just adjusting these parameters, and most of the time it's getting to where it's.
Okay, so somehow you got the answer. The question seems to be answered from the person point of view. Just to say, from the YouTube channel comments about Hector, I would like if this example code will be shared, and it is already on GitHub. Yuri already mentioned that.
It's on GitHub, yes. It's open.
And then someone suggests using pgswine Docker instead of CP, just as a suggestion. To read it from the comments, maybe they disappear from the YouTube chat. And some people are thanking you for this very informative presentation, which I also want to do because, as I said at the beginning, it's a topic of interest for me that in many cases I need to test with the different topologies for core network